The day started like any other in the Cooper household, but there was a heaviness in the air that no one could explain. Mary stood at the kitchen counter, staring blankly at the toast burning in the toaster. She had forgotten to press it down, and yet, she still watched it as if the smell of burning bread could somehow mask the emptiness she felt inside. She hadn't slept much. Lately, the nights had become harder. George Sr.'s absence wasn't something she ever really got used to. It just settled into the corners of the house like a ghost. Sheldon walked in, clutching a stack of astronomy notes that had nothing to do with school, and everything to do with avoiding his feelings. He glanced at his mother and quietly sat at the table. Normally, he'd complain that the toast was overcooked by exactly 13.2%, but today he said nothing. Missy entered next, her usual sarcasm missing. She looked at Sheldon, then at Mary. "Mom," she said gently, "you okay?" Mary forced a smile, one that was cracked around the edges. "I'm fine, honey. Just tired." But Missy wasn't fooled. And neither was Sheldon. After breakfast, Sheldon retreated to the garage. He hadn't been in there much since Dad passed, but something pulled him that way. Maybe it was the dream he had, where his dad was tinkering with an old lawnmower, saying nothing, just there. But in the dream, when Sheldon tried to speak, his dad vanished. The silence had haunted him since. The garage smelled like motor oil and dust. Tools were still hanging neatly on the wall, untouched. George Sr. had been many things, but disorganized wasn't one of them. Sheldon sat down where his father used to sit, on an old wooden stool that creaked under even his small weight. As his eyes scanned the cluttered shelves, something caught his eye, a metal box marked miscellaneous. It was buried under a stack of manuals. Inside were receipts, fishing licenses, and a sealed envelope. The handwriting on the front made Sheldon's breath hitch. It said, "To my son." Sheldon stared at it for what felt like forever. His fingers trembled as he opened it. The letter read, "To my son, Sheldon. If you're reading this, then I never found the right time to say what I should have. I know we live in different worlds. Yours is full of stars, mine was just Friday night lights. But that doesn't mean I didn't try to understand you. I watched you grow into something I could never have imagined, brilliant, strange, and a little bit stubborn. But mostly mine. I was proud of you, son. Even if I never said it enough. Or at all." Sheldon wiped his eyes with the sleeve of his hoodie. His breath was shaky. All his life, he had analyzed data, memorized formulas, solved impossible equations, but he had never calculated the weight of unsaid love. That night, he sat quietly on the porch. The Texas sky above him was scattered with stars, and he felt strangely small beneath it. Missy joined him, throwing a blanket over their legs. "You miss him?" she asked. "Yes," Sheldon said plainly. "I think. I always thought he didn't understand me. But maybe that wasn't the point." Missy leaned her head on his shoulder, something she rarely did. "He didn't have to understand. He just had to love you. And he did." Meanwhile, Mary had found herself in the garage later that night. She had been avoiding it. But when she stepped in, she saw the open box, the letter missing, and the stool slightly turned. She knew Sheldon had found it. Her heart broke and healed at the same time. Upstairs, Sheldon placed the letter into a small metal tin he labeled emotional artifacts, not for scientific analysis. He slid it under his bed, right next to a stack of old comic books and a photo of the family from Galveston Beach. Later, in school, Sheldon found himself distracted during a lecture on thermodynamics. Not because he didn't understand it, he could teach the class better than the teacher, but because he kept thinking about that letter. That his father, the man he thought never knew how to connect with him, had once sat down, pen in hand, and tried. That meant more to Sheldon than any award, any scholarship, any theorem. At dinner that evening, Mary said grace, her voice steady but eyes wet. "Lord, thank you for this food, and for the family that remains, and the love that still echoes in these walls." George Jr. nodded silently. Even he, always too cool to show emotion, had been caught staring at their father's chair lately. Sheldon didn't say much that night, but when he passed his mom the salt, he paused and said softly, "He loved us, didn't he?" Mary met his eyes, surprised but grateful. "With everything he had," she said. "Even when he didn't know how to show it." Sheldon nodded. For the first time he truly believed it. That night before bed he opened his notebook and wrote, "Sometimes the most important equations aren't mathematical. They're emotional. Love may not always be observable, but that doesn't mean it's not there. Some forces, like gravity, just exist." The final shot fades with Sheldon turning off his lamp, the letter under his pillow, and the stars outside still glowing, silent witnesses to a boy, a father, and the letter he never sent.